Hello, Ahula Dunya, Kimera Hashif. Hope you're all well. It's been another busy week for Hands Up for Trad. I've been reading the evaluation for Shacking the Gaelic, that's World Gaelic Week, and it's brilliant to see the amount of people taking part in the project, all using their Gaelic. Well done to Joy Dunlop and the team who did a brilliant job. We've still got a few places left to fill at Tinto Summer School on the 7th to the 12th of July. This is the 25th anniversary of Tinto Summer School, and it's brilliant tutors we have this year. Donald Barker on piano, Kirsty Beaton on clarsach, Heather Cartwright on guitar, Josie Duncan on singing and songwriting, and Errogie on fiddle. And don't worry if you don't hear your instrument in there. We have ensemble classes for everyone. Now, I'm delighted to welcome to Hands Up for Trad TV today one of Scotland's most exciting and innovative fiddle players and composers. From the shores of Loch Ness, he's been a driving force in bands like Session A9 and the Treacherous Orchestra. His compositions are played in sessions around the world, and now he's sharing his expertise through his YouTube channel while also pursuing orchestral film composition. Please welcome fiddler Adam Sutherland. Hi, Adam.
Hi, Simon. How are you doing?
I'm very good, thanks. That's very good. Very happy about Shacking the Gaelic.
That's great. And also, congratulations. I didn't realize it had been 25 years of Tinto. So, I mean, that's an amazing achievement. And the amount of musicians who have gone on to become like professional musicians, but also just happy musicians, most importantly, that have come through Tinto is quite astounding. So well done.
Yeah, no, it's amazing actually. And people who have been born long after Tinto started can now come to Tinto, which is always like an amazing thought. You know, when you start something. Anyway, tell us, let's talk about your YouTube channel. You've been broadcasting live to subscribers about tune writing techniques. What inspired you to share your expertise in this format?
Well, I suppose how I started off doing this was, well, first of all, writing tunes is like my favorite thing in the world. I love music, but there's nothing quite like the excitement of stumbling across a new flurry of notes that you've not heard before, hopefully, and then bring them into a tune. I've just always found that insanely exciting. And I started asking about a year or so ago now. I started asking where can you go and learn, where can anyone go and learn how to write traditional music? And I gather you can do it in like the RCS or some of the other university courses. I believe you can learn there. But I just thought, but this is traditional music, so it's great to have it in conservatoires and universities. But it's also because it's traditional music, I feel like it should be as easy to go and learn how to write tunes as it is easy to go and learn how to play the fiddle or the bodhrán or the guitar, or as easy as it is to go and learn how to paint, still life everywhere. I just didn't understand. The more I dug away at where can you actually learn to write your own tunes, or where who's teaching it, I discovered it just seems to be really not very many places, and I feel like it should be for anyone. And so I just thought, well, I'm going to just start my little corner of the internet. I'm going to just start teaching what I know so far to anyone who will listen, because I feel like traditional music, what is it at its core? Is it's a body of work, right? It's thousands and thousands of tunes that everyone loves to play, and there's so many there's more people, more humans playing traditional music now than ever before, right? It's not just in Scotland, it's in Ireland, it's every corner of the world that's got this interest in playing this music. But who wrote the music? And surely the writing of the music should also be part of this continuing tuition, because there's just so much teaching going on. So I just thought I'll just start, and I kind of hope I'm not the only one, because that would suggest that it's pointless, or that I have a hypothesis that maybe some people want to learn, but at the moment it's very much a hypothesis. I've got a few folk following me in my live streams each Sunday night, and I've got a few folk in my Patreon as well. I have For people who want more, I have some subscribers to my tune writing Patreon. So we have like a Discord server, and for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's like a WhatsApp type thing, a private conversation. But you go in there and you can chat about tune writing and share your tunes. It's called a creative safe space, so they can just share their tunes. And I chuck in roughly weekly tune writing challenges. Like this week, you must write a Strathspey with these 4 notes, and they don't have to. And I often encourage them just to ignore me and just do what the hell they like, because I think it's good to be a little bit punk with your own creativity. But in a nutshell, that's why I started, and that's what I'm trying to see is there anyone else out there who wants to learn how to write their own tunes? And I think the answer has to be yes. But maybe they don't feel it confident enough, or they don't have anywhere to go to just gently take them from having some ideas to finishing a tune. But that's what I want to do, is just maybe I just think that there's got to be loads of folk out there who have maybe half written tunes or feel like they could, but there's just no structure or framework. So that's what I'd hope to provide for them. So if that's you at home and you've got some ideas of little tunes, finish your tune, come and say hi to my live stream, and you never know. It's the most satisfying thing in the world. Simon, you've written tunes. You know what it's like when you've written a tune. It's so exciting. So that's it. Yeah.
That's amazing. What's the most common challenge you see that aspiring composers face when trying to write, a Scottish trad tune?
I don't know what the most common challenge is, but there's certainly a few themes. I feel like getting started, like from having nothing to just getting what I call the seed phrase, which is just the very first few notes. I call it the seed phrase because it's just like everything comes from there. Everything after it is only makes sense because of what initially started. It's just so getting started, and that's something I've got lots of tips and tricks to help folk with, is just getting their first few notes together. But also there are things just like maybe you write half a tune and you can't think of where to go. How do you get a second half? I've got loads of I just over the years I've just built up a kind of like in my mind, it's like a garage with tools, labeled tools that I kind of reach for, which is ridiculous because I'm so disorganized in my own life. I don't quite know how I managed to have such an organized mind when it comes to writing tunes, everything neatly labeled. But like just at home, it's like, where's the butter? Why am I staring into the fridge? Stuff like that. So that's what I would like to share with people. It's like how to finish a tune, how to get a second half, or how to make a contrast. What I love is a good contrasting phrase. If you've got an opening phrase, and maybe a lot of folk have a great opening phrase, and then they don't really know what else to do. So I've got some tips to kind of go how to make something which contrasts that. It's and then so when you have the question answer phrasing that's so beautiful in traditional music, phrase answer phrase is different, and then the same phrase again, and then maybe a different answer phrase. How to get a nice answer phrase, just loads of stuff like that. But also, rather than me just also broadcasting at people what I know, I'm also doing this to like at least 50% of me is also wanting to listen to what people's challenges are and to listen to what people are finding difficult and to see if I can help. And every time I have a wee Zoom with my Patreon subscribers, I always learn something from them. One of my Patreon subscribers wrote a tune. What did he do? Some kind of mathematical formula or something like that. It was like wild, and I'm just like, there's so many ways. There's no one way of writing a tune. So I'm very much doing this as a fact finding. I'm always hopefully always learning as well. So that's a very long answer to your short question. So
No, it's
but I
good.
will
It's
stop
good.
talking. Yeah.
I do. I find it interesting. I mean, when I'm writing, often if someone will give me the first 3 notes, that definitely helps me. And often I think when I start to try and write a tune, if I don't get it in the first 5 minutes, I don't think I'm going to get it on that practice section. But I also remember the bit that Stephen Pressfield said in The War of Art, that amateurs, they when they don't have any inspiration, they stop. But professionals, they keep on going until the inspiration comes, which I've always found quite interesting. But it's quite hard to do as well.
Yeah, there's just so many things like that. I always think for every single almost like rule, there's always an exception. It's a little bit like it's. I'm not like religious, but I do think there's some yin and yang stuff that goes with writing tunes. You know, like contrasting phrases, contrasting parts. Maybe the second half has got a little bit of the first half in it. That kind of balance. But also for every guideline, like, oh, if you're struggling to finish your tune, push through. Yeah, except sometimes no. And like, if I were to say the opposite of like, if you're too burned out with your tune and you want to just finish it, maybe taking a step back is what to do. Yeah, except maybe actually you shouldn't do that. Maybe you should push through. And what I try to encourage is people just to always go with experimenting and also to listen to their own opinions, their own tastes. People are really opinionated when it comes to food, right? No one has any problem with saying, I hate fried eggs, I hate onions, or I love them. But when it comes to their own creative desires, writing a tune, people are suddenly really shy. So I want to just pour encouragement into that people's emerging creativity because your creativity is like a wee flower. It can be trampled by other people or by yourself so easily. And I'm sure I'm not the only creative person who's had to battle off other people's opinions or lack of confidence. And I guess I just want to help people actually. And if I can just save someone some bother of in any way, then that's what I want to do.
And what can people do to support your YouTube channel and I suppose help you build your subscriber base?
Well, they could come and tune in on a Sunday night at 7 p.m. Most Sundays, 7 p.m. GMT. And yeah, you can do the whole like and subscribe, which I feel really. I don't know if it's just a Scottish bit of me that cringes every time I say like and subscribe, but yeah, I have to say that. So yeah, you could like and subscribe. And just watching it, if I get monetized, if I get a certain amount of watch hours per year, then I can start to sell my tune books. I can start to make do things that would make it easier for me to pay the bills because I'm not going to lie, that's also in this as much as I'm wanting to actually help. I do care about this. I also want to eat and stuff like that because I get hungry. I have a child anyway. So if they want to subscribe to my YouTube and just hang out, that'd be amazing. Also, weirdly, I found out the other day that if you were to like go and leave me some abuse, as one gentleman did a few weeks ago, which was I actually loved it. It was so crazy. That actually, if apparently the YouTube algorithm it sees comments as being interaction, and therefore it goes, oh, this is a happening video. We will push this to more people. So one way you could help me is to come and just abuse me in the comment section on my videos. That would actually help me. So you don't have to subscribe. You can dislike, unsubscribe, and slag me, and that would actually help me ultimately put food on the table. Isn't that a mad world that we live in? That's actually gonna maybe help. Plus, it'll toughen me up a bit. I will get more resilient. Bring it. Give me this lagging. So there
So
you go.
your YouTube address will be in the comments down in the details of this video, but do you know off the top of your head?
Errogie music on YouTube. Type that into YouTube. You'll get to me. Um, I bought this recently to try and make a difference. But if I turn it on, it's so bright that all you see is just white light. So, I'm viewing this as a learning experiment, just continually stumbling across error after error. But yeah, Errogie music. You can
Well,
come and find me there.
a man must have his gadgets.
You know it. You know it.
So, just talking about composition and recent work, your tunes have been recorded worldwide, from Canada to Korea. Which international interpretation of your music has surprised or moved you the most?
I guess I was pretty surprised by the line dancing video in the US of the Road to Errogie. It's now part of the line dancing repertoire. I mean, that's not even it's not even Scottish or Irish now. It's gone into that surprises me. It's also surprising to see people. I didn't know. Actually, do you know what? Irish music is so big everywhere. Like this is what it's taught me is like the Road to Errogie and Trip to the Market, and those two tunes have kind of like gone into the Irish tradition, and I didn't realize that there was Irish music in Korea and Japan, huge, which is amazing. Um, I don't know quite know what Scotland have done so wrong that Ireland have done quite so right, but like I don't know. So that's quite surprising. The line dancing. Also, it's just amazing to hear that like the Road to Ergie's been recorded 50 times and all that. It just got featured on an album from Nashville, which is just pure kind of Nashville music. So it's not even like Irish or Scottish. I'm just always surprised and actually a little bit freaked out. I will never get used to that ever.
That is amazing, though, isn't it? You know, it's always amazing where your music crops up. It's something to be really proud of that people actually notice and pick up your stuff.
It's weird because I'm not like trying to convince them. I remember doing a folk festival in England once with Treacherous Orchestra, and I needed to charge my phone, and everyone else was staying on the site after sound check, and I went to the hotel, and I went into this pub, and I heard some music, and then I walked in, and they were playing the Road to Ergie, and none of them had a clue that the guy who wrote it had just walked in looking to plug in his phone, and I didn't shout at him. I, I wrote that. I thought that I'm not going to do that, but I just charged my phone and then left, and I was just like, "That's so strange." But yeah,
No, it's great. And now you have this year released your latest track. It's called Mary Leaps. Mary Leaps In.
they really said, "Yeah,
And it
yeah."
marks your first release after what you describe, I suppose, as 4 years of deep study and chrysalis, your words. Could you tell us about this period of growth and what listeners might notice has evolved in your music?
Okay, so two things have really spurred me on to learn more in the last few years. One was the pandemic. Remember when, right at the start of the pandemic, when there was no talk of a vaccine? Remember that period where it was like everything is toast. There was literally no return to anything, and it was just like such a shock for everyone. And for me, I just was just like I got really angry one day by something I should not have been angry about, and I had to take myself for a long walk. I think I walked to Scotstoun in Glasgow, as you do when you're angry. I just walked there, and I couldn't work out why I was angry. And cut a long story short, I had a hypothesis that maybe I was like grieving. But I was like, I don't actually know anyone, unfortunately, who's passed away. But what's the 5 stages of grief? Number two is anger. So I thought, could you be angry that like your career has died? And I thought that felt right. I was like, I feel like angry just because like everything is all my plans are toast. Like everyone had that, and I realized. Then I read an article in a psychology magazine months later that said that people were actually experiencing the stages of grief, and I was like, wow, that's really validating. So I was anyway. I was like, at the time, I was like, what's stage five again? Oh, acceptance. I thought, can I just skip to that, please? And of course, that's not how grief works. Uh, but I just was like, what if I just accept it? Everything is toast. Your job's toast. All your plans are gone. Just accept it. So I did, and it felt quite freeing. And then I started just going, well, maybe I could write music for like film and TV because everyone's watching telly loads, and everyone's still watching telly. And so I started learning then about like just how to use this program like called Logic Pro. It's one of the many ways of recording music. It's like a modern recording studio thing. And I've never cared about that, and I just got right into it. And I didn't realize I'd stopped learning. I used to learn all the time, and then I hadn't even noticed that I'd plateaued, and I'd just kind of gotten to a point in my career where I knew enough to keep going as a musician. I could play all the Kayleys reasonably okay. I could play to an extent where I got gigs. I didn't have to learn anymore. I didn't realize I just plateaued until I suddenly started furiously learning what's a compressor, what's a EQ, and then ever since then, I've just been utterly hooked on just the excitement of learning, and I've never been so excited ever about music as a result of that. And so I released this track. It's my first attempt at a fully homemade release. And I'm sure it's naive in many ways in terms of audio engineering, but also I just know you have to get stuff out there. You have to kind of clear your desk. And a lot of some musicians do this thing where they just never release stuff. They just write it, and it just stays. And I just thought you can't do that. You have to chuck it out there and accept whatever criticism comes your way, but then it's done. So that was actually what I did with this track. It was a tune commission, so I get people ask me to write tunes for loved ones usually, and a really nice guy called Mike from Comrie said, "Can you write a tune for my wife as she leaps into retirement?" And it's loosely named after a tune by a guy called, is it Lester? Someone from the mid 20th century, a jazzer. Lester leaps in, so it's a play on that. I just chucked it out there, and yeah, so that's the one thing that boosted me. And then becoming a parent has also just pushed me on in two ways. So I'm basically more psyched now about music than I have ever been, whilst also being 45, which is hilarious, being middle aged. I feel like really young on one hand, and also I'm just observing that I'm clearly 45. So yeah, but I'm just never been so excited ever about music and writing stuff at home and layering it and recording fiddle parts and putting synthesizers. Even though I'm maybe not the world's best at it, I just it's so much fun. Oh my god! Sorry.
Well, you can go to Adam's Bandcamp page, which will also be linked below, and you can go and find that track. Now, you've mentioned that your aim is to become an orchestral film score composer. What draws you to this? You're talking about how you love to layer stuff up and everything. Is this all part of it?
I've always had a bit of me that's just like been sitting there dormant even before I was left school. Some bit of me, I don't even know where this came from, but some bit of me that just said, "You've got something to do in this life," and it's writing some music that's like bloody enormous. And I don't quite know where this bit of me that's just been like almost breathing down my shoulder and whispering in my neck that's just urging me to make enormous music. And whilst I've had a great time playing in bands and all is well and writing tunes, I've always had a bit of me that says, yeah, but you're still not really doing what you're supposed to be doing yet. You're supposed to actually be doing something. You're supposed to be writing something that's literally, you've arranged everything. It's an orchestral thing. It's enormous, and you haven't just relied on someone else to do the chords or someone else to write the bass lines. You've done the whole lot. And I've always had this itch that's just like says, no, you're not really, you're not doing it yet, and that's just partly behind this. But also in the pandemic, when there was nothing left, I decided to set myself a goal, which I didn't even believe. I still don't even know if I can achieve it. Just an insanely off the charts goal, um, which was like, I will become a film score composer. And as I said that out loud, I was like, that's ridiculous, was my immediate other thought. But then I realized, and this is a bit of advice I would give out to anyone, is that you can set yourself a target, right? And you don't have to actually believe that you can achieve it. I actually think self-belief is, in a way, overrated, because what you can do is you can just do what you need to do to build towards it each day. That doesn't require you to believe that you can achieve it. Just I was like, what would I? Okay, I don't believe I can achieve that, but say I was wrong. What would I be doing today? And that's when I was like, well, I guess you'd be learning how to use a DAW, digital audio workstation. I had to look it up. I was like, okay, I'll just start learning. And every single day, ever since then, if I'm not sure what to do, I go, how are you getting on with building towards that goal? And there's a great video on YouTube about this Irish entrepreneur dude who talks about the guy who ate a plane. You might have heard about him. He first of all ate a bike. He basically ate an entire aircraft in tiny little bits. And I heard about this after I'd set my insane goal, which is that it might feel mad, but if you just do something every single day, you might well do it. You might well get there. And no one would have believed that this guy could eat a plane, but he ate a plane. I'm not saying we can all do it, but the point is, what I've realized about giving myself this goal is I'm having to up my game. So I'm like, oh, you don't know enough about audio engineering, you don't know about orchestrating, you better get going. So even if I don't make it as a film score composer, it's still given me the purpose of just giving me a sense of direction, and it absolutely got me through the pandemic. Whilst instead of like just wailing and gnashing of teeth, I was like, right, I'm working towards that. And psychologically, it brought me out of the state of, oh no, everything's gone, to just like, yeah, everything's gone, but now we've got a new target. So I'm a big believer in just setting goals that you don't even have to believe you can achieve. Because even if you don't achieve them, that's fine, but it's gotten you further forward, and you always learn stuff you wouldn't have known, you wouldn't have learned if you hadn't just been like, right, we're going this way. So that's it. That, and also just this desire to write enormous bits of music, is just kind of, I feel like those two things are just feeding off each other, and that's just making me so excited. So yeah.
That's amazing. And how do you think that you'll incorporate your traditional Scottish roots into the sort of scoring? How do you take that massive part of you into writing scores?
It's Well, my vibe is right at the center of my kind of creative being is tune writing, and I discovered over the last 4 years this just accidentally, which I wouldn't have discovered if I wasn't doing this insane goal setting. I discovered that I've written a tune in the way that I write tunes, and I thought that I'd put some chords to it. So I just looked at what the tune was saying chordally, and I put some kind of chords. I start with the bass line. I start with something simple, just like what's the bass, what am I hearing, and then added some other notes. And then I put each of those notes, rather than just being like on one instrument, like a guitar or a piano, I put each of those notes to individual instruments on my computer using the Spitfire Audio sample library, which is like, you can just basically it's like recordings of orchestras, so you can just program in orchestral sounding recordings. So I gave one of the notes to the violin one, another note to violin two, another note to the violas, another notes to the cellos. So now I have chords, or each note of the chord being played by each different instrument. And then rather than just being chords, I just changed them a little bit, so it wasn't like block chords, but it was like each line was just moving a little bit on its own. And I was listening back to that with the tune playing on top, and then one day I just muted the tune, the original starting point, and listened, and I realized that it didn't need the tune anymore. It was like the tune had given birth to this new unexpected creature which had crawled out, and the tune was like no longer even needed. It did go on top, but I was like, wow, that's so you can get. I also never would have written these orchestral moving parts if I hadn't have had my melody as a starting point. So to answer your question, how does my traditional upbringing feed into writing orchestras? It's actually right at the center. I write my tune, I get excited about a melody, and then I put chords to it, and then I put those chords into parts, and then suddenly you've got orchestrations, and so it's all from the tune. I don't think I could write something orchestral without a tune. Like, I know some folk write chords and they go, oh, they sit and they write beautiful chords. I love that, but the great thing about having a tune as your source is my B parts are quite often wildly different to my A parts, just because I like that. So it means that suddenly the chords that have come from the tune veer off in some unexpected direction, which they wouldn't have if they weren't referring to this original melody, which may or may not be even present in the final mix.
Well, we're going to hear one of your tunes now. Can you tell us a bit about it before we listen to it?
So I just started working on this last week. So for anyone listening, this isn't some polished arrangement. You are watching something that's got scaffolding on it. And really, no one should ever really see this, except I do share this with my Patreon subscribers. I do share my works in progress. I think they quite like hearing the kind of step-by-step stuff. But yeah, this is a tune commission. It's been written for a lady I haven't met, but she lives up in Bonar Bridge. Her name's Moira, and she's going to be 90. So I'm doing two arrangements. I'm going to do a more traditional sounding thing for her, and I'm working with the guy Donald McPhee, who's asking me to write this for her. We're going to do two. One that's a bit more trad, and then another one that seems to have gone off somewhere else, which I wasn't ready for, but it's gone a little bit almost a B-flat or something. I don't even know, but the tunes seem to just. I don't even know what's going to come out when I set the computer. I just go with it. So yeah, it's for a lady up in Bonner Bridge, and it's not finished, but you'll hear that there's just it's just my little home recording thing here, and I'm clicking my fingers, recording that, and programming a synthesizer and a little bit of orchestral libraries, and yeah.
Here it is. That's great. Lucky Moira.
I'm looking forward to meeting her at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, yeah, I was going to ask you about, we talked already about you come from Errogie on the south shores of Loch Ness. And I mean, just looking back a bit, how did growing up in the Highlands influence your musical style and composition?
I was really lucky to have two supportive parents, most of all, who took me to fiddle lessons. My dad took me to fiddle lessons with Donald Riddle on the other side of Loch Ness, and just started teaching me tunes, and that was obviously the start, and I liked it. And then I went to Alistair Fraser's fiddle camps right back when he was probably quite a bit younger than I am now. There was only like 14 people on the Isle of Skye, his fledgling fiddle course, and he's an amazing teacher. He just does what I think teachers are supposed to do. More above all, is just he just makes you feel like you're in love with the music. And once I went to his courses, I was just like, I love these old tunes. And I found out that some of the tunes he was playing and recording were from where I'm from. Like the first tune on his Skydance album from 1986 is a tune from just down the road where I was brought up. Great title, The Scolding Wives of Abertarf. So that was just huge, like just love for it. But I also was a choir boy. I joined Inverness Cathedral Choir, and that had nothing. That bit of my brain did not speak to my tune playing brain for quite a while. That was just like totally separate. But I guess I learned in the Highlands. I learned from a great choir master, Russell Grant, about harmony and hearing intervals between notes and singing in a choir. And I also got a great love for choral music, playing music by Elgar and some Mozart and some Haydn, and playing with a full choir and a church organ. And then my voice broke, and I went to university. And then the two bits, my fiddle brain and my vocal brain, because I didn't really have a singing voice, I didn't really know what to do with it. So I just put that bit of my brain into playing the fiddle. So I'd play fiddles, I'd be thinking about harmonies and all that stuff. And I still do more than ever. And yeah, so that's kind of my Highland upbringing, was a mixture of love for old tunes and also classical choral music.
That's amazing. And I mean, we're jumping around about here, but I was actually just thinking, if anyone wanted you to write a tune commission for their loved one, how do they get in touch with you, and do they have certain things that you ask from them?
Good questions. Yeah, well, they can send me an email. I can put my email address in the chat if you want. I've got a website. You can see adamsutherland.co.uk. And usually they ask me, like, I have three different packages that I offer. Like, one is like a fully released track. The other one's just like solo fiddle recording. All of them are, you get the tune framed and you get to name the tune. So that's like a nice thing people have said to give as a gift. And the actual physical thing, it's like on someone's wall. So in fact, there's a really nice gentleman called Lackey who's just got me to do a commission, and that's his third one, and he's got like a wall of his house with three of my tunes and recordings. So yeah, it's something you do for someone else. You get to name it for them. I also send them loads of recordings. I always insist that they are really, really sure that they like the tune. So if they don't like it, I'm like, tell me. Like, you have to like it. It's important for you, obviously, that you like the tune. It's important for me that I feel like you actually love it. So sometimes that means me sending tune after tune after tune, and someone just going, no, no, no. And I like that, because it's just, when they do get one that they like, it's like, okay, cool, we can relax, and that's how it goes forward from there. And then they eventually get a SoundCloud link and a framed tune, and hopefully they feel good about it.
Oh, well, lucky people. You've also, with all your tunes, you released a book called The Road to Errogie, and it's got loads of great tunes in it. But I suppose one of the things I was wanting to ask is the book, which is a beautiful book, which you can get on, is it scotlandsmusic.com?
Yes, or my own website. That's right. Yeah.
Or your own website.
Yeah.
But the book, it features photographs by Sorley MacDonald, and I was just wondering, did you feel it's important to visually represent the landscape that inspires your music?
Yeah, definitely. So it's like the Errogie Collection Volume 1. I called it Volume 1 just because it forces my future self to make another one. And my mum and dad are still there on the south side of Loch Ness, and we grew up with little holiday cottages to rent. And I remember being young, and my dad and mum were like not raging, but there was a map of the area for tourists. And the busier road, right, goes down what we call the north side of the Loch Ness. Arguably, it's the west side because it's kind of like, that kind of shape. But there was no road represented on this map for tourists down our side of Loch Ness at all. And they were like, how are we supposed to, get some of these tourists coming to our accommodation if we're not even on the map? So that's really when I became radicalized into trying to, upsell the south side of Loch Ness and its beauty. It's also why I wrote the Road to Errogie. Didn't quite realize just how well that was going to work out, I guess, in terms of generating awareness for the south side of Loch Ness. Although a lot of folk think it's somewhere in Ireland. But the book, I thought, yeah, I want some photos, and there was only one guy to really ask for that, and it was the aforementioned Sorley MacDonald, whose just artistic vision is just amazing. I'm sure many, if not all, of your listeners will be aware of his work. He recently did Jem Butterworth's stunning album, artwork, and he just does loads. And he's just such an artist. And so he took some beautiful photos. So it's my hope that people look at the book and don't just find tunes that they like, hopefully, but also it's just something beautiful to go through. Because when I was a kid, you'd have a book of tunes that you would love, and it would be a nice thing just to open up. So I wanted to make something that was just beautiful looking as well as hopefully beautiful sounding.
Oh, that's amazing. Now, you've released two full-length albums, Squall in 2013 and Some Other Land in 2018. How have you changed as an artist since then? And do you have any plans to release a new album?
Well, I guess I've probably answered how I've changed as an artist a fair amount already, just with what I'm describing earlier. But I would love to just now make an album. I've released one single, as you mentioned, Mary Leaps In, and I've got a couple of tracks on my SoundCloud for tune commissions that I would love to re-release with a bit more time and energy. But I need to just find the time and the money to make an album. I'd love to do it here at home, and I've got loads of tracks just that have been kind of my learning how to do this tracks, but I feel like they could be brought to life. I've just got tons of music, and I would just love. I'm going to look into getting funding to have the time, because obviously whatever I'm doing, whatever any parent is doing, particularly if you're a self-employed musician, you have to be able to justify what you're doing, and is it paying the bills? Is that actually helping provide for your family? And if there's any doubt about that, it's harder to justify. So I want to just find the funds and the support to be able to say, right, okay, I've got some money because this is the world we live in, which justifies me making the album, and I'm going to make this album entirely on my own this time, instead of employing some beautiful musicians in my past two albums. I'm going to have a go at doing it on my own and do it in this shed. And yeah, I do have an idea to maybe get lots of fiddles and like layer them so it's not just the same fiddle, but like how many different instruments so that it sounds not like the same fiddle layered, but just like essentially it sounds like an orchestra, but you record them all individually. Um, and I have had some enthusiasm for doing that from a couple of folk over in Edinburgh who have many violins. Tim Wright Violins has provisionally said yeah. So that's kind of where I would like to do and make it just sound orchestral, but I obviously don't have an orchestra. But if I could make a wee orchestra in my little shed here, that would be what I'd like to do. And yeah, just channel all my absolute frenzied excitement into an album that ticks the boxes for that bit of me that I was saying before that says you got to do something big, that just kind of just satisfies that bit of me and says, "Are you happy now?" I'm guessing that bit of me is not ever going to be happy, but like just almost just for my own satisfaction, it's like, okay, I've done something and I have written all the parts. It's orchestral, at least, just that feeling. I'm sure many artists have this feeling of like you won't feel quite right until you've done something particular in your art, whatever it is. At a certain threshold, you have to. Maybe you never get there. Maybe artists never ever actually fully scratch that itch. But that's what I'd love to do. Make an album like that, and if it worked out, maybe even do it live one day with some orchestral. Like that would be amazing. Write an orchestral album and actually have it played by an orchestra would be like I'd be like, okay, I can stop now. Yeah.
Well, hopefully that's never the case. Do you have any advice for young Scottish musicians who are looking to make their mark in trad music while also exploring other genres? I mean, you've been obviously, aside all this, you've been a really interesting musician, and you've always worked with lots of, with Treacherous and Crofton Fives, and it's pretty quite funky music. You've always seen a way to navigate through that. Have you got any advice for any young musicians?
Definitely to keep learning stuff and maybe set some insane goal. That's my current favorite bit of advice. But also get into what you like and value your own artistic preference, even if like you're the only one in the room who feels like what you're hearing is what the way you like it. If there's a room full of folk and they don't like it, then you know you should just ignore you. So ignore them unless you're in a band, in which case you have to compromise. But don't let your own version of how you hear music be crushed by other people's strong opinions. Equally, don't be so precious about that only your opinion is the one that matters. It's also again, it's a balance. There's always an exception. So value your own artistic ideas, but also be able to pick holes in them. I'm a big fan of really picking holes in my own beliefs, uh, because sometimes I find that I pick at them musically or like philosophically. I pick at them and they fall apart, and then I find something new and better. Like maybe I've written a tune and go, I'm happy with that tune, but then I throw everything at it and it doesn't quite survive, but something better and stronger comes out. So yeah, don't be afraid to also just deconstruct. Yeah, and also just go for it. Young people, just go for it. There's so much exciting music coming out from young folks now. It's amazing, and it's really exciting. I love it as someone who's not so young anymore. I guess I could be like bitter and middle aged and be like, oh, the young folk are not doing it right, and it's too fast or too this, but that's not me. I'm so excited to hear all the amazing stuff coming out from the young team. So just above all, just go for it. Surprise us. Just tear everything up that we've done. Tear it up and start again, or whatever. Just you do you.
Oh, that's a great way to finish this interview, Adam. And if anyone wants to find out to visit Adam's YouTube channel, it's Errogie Music, and that's Errogie. And if anyone wants to support Hands Up for Trad, handsupfortrad.co.uk, and we'll be back next week with more great music. Thanks very much, Adam.
Pleasure. Thank you, Simon.